Coming up,
I felt uncomfortable in my own body.
a life ruined at just 3 years old.
I was no longer interested in dolls because it was unsafe.
One woman's search for the light
That was really the starting point.
and her discovery in an unlikely place.
The love that you're seeking, you're not going to find here.
On today's 700 Club. Well, welcome to the 700 Club. State houses from coast to coast are boarding up. The FBI is warning of possible armed protests in every state capital beginning this weekend through Inauguration Day.
One group is reportedly ready to storm government buildings if President Trump is removed from office before January 20th. Meanwhile, leaders on Capitol Hill move forward with plans to impeach him. CBN national security correspondent Eric Phillips says more.
Though the president has been mostly silent since last week, there is word this morning that he is acknowledging some blame for the riot at the U.S. Capitol last Wednesday. That coming from House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, who says the president expressed that during a phone call with him. And now the president is declaring a state of emergency in Washington, D.C. With these images still fresh in everyone's mind, the president is now declaring a state of emergency stretching from January 11th through days after the presidential inauguration. At the same time, the FBI is warning of what's to come. State houses coast to coast boarding up, preparing for protests and potentially dangerous demonstrations. This as an unnamed armed group reportedly is calling for storming government buildings if President Trump is removed from office before January 20th. Still, efforts to impeach the president move forward.
Sadly, the person who's running the executive branch is a deranged, unhinged, dangerous president.
More than 200 House Democrats introduced a single article of impeachment Monday, charging the president with incitement of insurrection after they say the president, with his rhetoric, encouraged a mob to attack the U.S. Capitol last week. Evangelical leader Franklin Graham says impeachment would be a mistake.
I think it's a mistake because, on one hand, they talk about unity and bringing the country together, but yet you try to impeach the president a second time. It's just going to further divide the country.
They say that if we impeach, it could make matters worse. Matters can't get worse. We just had a potential coup attempt.
Even some of the president's staunchest allies have turned on him.
I do think the president committed impeachable offenses.
But one Senate Democrat is calling on House Democrats to reconsider.
I think this is so ill-advised for Joe Biden to be coming in, trying to heal the country, trying to be the president of all the people when we're going to be so divided and fighting again.
Graham says the actions at the Capitol that took 5 lives, including an officer, should be dealt with severely.
And I hope they'll be able to identify every one of them and prosecute them, put them in jail.
Vice President Pence and President Trump met for the first time on Monday since the attack. They've pledged to work together in the final days of the administration. Meanwhile, acting DHS Secretary Chad Wolf has become the latest member of the administration to resign over the situation. A House vote on the impeachment is expected to happen tomorrow. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Well, if there was ever a time to pray for America, it's right now. We need to pray. The violence seems to be spreading, the FBI issuing warnings. We're far from having a peaceful transfer of power. The first time in our history where we're not recognizing the election results, and that's leading to upheaval from coast to coast. We need to pray. We need to pray for God to intervene, for only the Prince of Peace can bring us peace. So please be in prayer for our country. In other news, big tech is coming under fire for shutting down President Trump and a social media app popular with conservatives. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington.
That's right, Gordon. The social media platform Parler is suing Amazon for getting booted off the tech giant's web hosting services and forcing it offline. Amazon claimed Parler's users were inciting violence after last week's riot on Capitol Hill. The controversy is just the latest in the ongoing debate over free speech versus censorship online. Mark Martin has the story.
Conservatives claim a big tech crackdown on free speech is taking place, and they point out that many others, including leftists and rogue regimes, post threats of violence on Twitter with no consequences. The list is growing. Twitter took its action Friday to permanently suspend the president's account. Amazon Web Services took down Parler, a Twitter competitor and growing social media haven for conservatives. Google and Apple have also banned Parler. The claim that Parler is partly responsible for the Capitol assault. The CEO maintains that's not true because his platform did not even have a way to coordinate an event. Ken Blackwell of the Family Research Council.
There's a real lack of consistency by those big tech companies. They're alleged to be neutral platforms for the free exchange of ideas, and that any regulation that they have will be evenly and fairly applied. Well, these are platforms that still allow for dictators and tyrants from other countries to communicate their messages freely.
Former Homeland Security counterterrorism official Elizabeth Newman says while these companies should be held accountable, the current situation calls for a different priority.
Right now, we need to make sure that we don't see another set of incidents like we had last week. Right now, we need to calm the temperature and get people focused on what happened January 6th. Let the investigation unfurl, arrest the people that violated the law, and then let's have a proper debate about Section 230.
But Media Research Center President Brent Bozell and other conservative leaders want big tech companies broken up after what they call sweeping acts of censorship against conservatives and President Donald Trump. Bozell added, big tech has declared war on free speech and is now an existential threat to democracy. Meanwhile, Senator Mark Warner of Virginia calls the United States Capitol a crime scene. The likely chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee has also requested that telecommunication and social media companies save any evidence associated with the, quote, insurrectionist attack in order to bring rioters to justice. Mark Martin, CBN News.
Thanks, Mark. Turning now to the battle against the coronavirus. The United States now in the second month of the biggest vaccination drive in history, with a major expansion of the campaign that includes opening football stadiums, Major League Baseball parks, fairgrounds, and convention centers. Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles has been used as a testing site, the biggest in the country. And now it also will serve as a place to get vaccinated, and more will be added as well.
These 5 sites, in addition to our private partner sites, will allow us to complete an additional 500,000 vaccinations among our healthcare workers by the end of January.
So far, just 35% of the 25 million doses distributed to the states have been administered. Well, with just 8 days to go before his inauguration, President-elect Joe Biden is putting the final pieces of his cabinet in place, Monday announcing veteran diplomat William Burns to lead the CIA. Burns has worked in U.S. foreign policy for 33 years under both Republican and Democratic presidents. Burns is the final pick in Biden's 15 cabinet nominations. If all are confirmed, it will be the most diverse in history. Well, the Trump administration is using its last few days in office to make some foreign policy moves, including redesignating Cuba a state sponsor of terrorism. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo stated the communist nation's harboring of terrorists in his announcement yesterday. Pompeo said Cuba's government must, quote, end its support for international terrorism and subversion. It is a reversal of President Obama's policy that he lifted the designation back in 2015. The Cuban government criticized the move, as did Senate Democrats, who said it will hamper President-elect Biden's ability to work with Cuba. Well, in England, the home where J.R.R. Tolkien wrote 2 masterpieces of English literature is up for sale. The house in Oxford is where Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Some supporters hope to preserve it as a literary center, but a steep price tag and fast-approaching deadline could stand in their way. As CBN's Jenna Browder reports, that's why they're asking for help.
20 Northmore Road in Oxford, England, is where J.R. Tolkien lived from 1930 to 1947. It's where he raised his family and also wrote some of his most well-known works. Now that it's for sale, there are many interested buyers, including Project Northmore, which has several leading characters helping its cause.
In 1930, a family moved into 20 Northmore Road, a big house in the university city of Oxford, England.
The young father entertained his children with his stories about a hobbit.
Here, Mr. Bilbo, where are you off to? I'm going on an adventure.
Well, there is no place for Tolkien in the world. Many other authors already have a house dedicated to them.
Project Northmore founder Julia Golding wants to change that.
In the UK, we have Jane Austen's house, we've got Wordsworth's house, Shakespeare, and it always struck me that there was a real missing piece of this literary heritage that hadn't yet happened.
Her goal, to make it a literary center in Tolkien's honor. She says the center will focus on all aspects of his life, from his writing and years as an Oxford professor to his deep Catholic faith and famous friendships.
And he was part of a group called the Inklings, and that included C.S. Lewis. So the literary centre they sort of had here in Oxford, they were people of faith, and that was part of what they were thinking of when they were writing.
Project Northmore has just 3 months to raise $6 million before the home hits the public market.
We had reached about $500,000 in the first week, which is very good. We shouldn't throttle back, though. We've got a long way to go still.
There are so many of us, you see, and we all want to see this done.
We will only succeed if we all do this together as a fellowship.
Project Northmore also has plans for an online community for those Tolkien fans who want to participate but can't get to Oxford. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Thank you, Jenna. And to learn more about the famous home and a Kickstarter campaign to help close the gap, you can go to cbnnews.com to learn more about that. Terry, back to you.
Thanks, John. Well, still ahead, meet an electronics whiz. How did this young man become the go-to person for friends and family with broken electronics? And how did he go from jobless to thriving entrepreneur? Well, he'll tell you himself. That's coming up. And then also ahead, anxiety epidemic in America. 1 in 5 adults struggles with depression, PTSD, and worse. So how is the church dealing with this issue? Find out when we come back.
Your news channel, your shows, the stories you care about. Anytime you want, anywhere you want. Download the CBN News app today.
Hi, this is Pat Robertson. We don't know what the future holds for different tech companies, but we always want to be able to share the good news through the media. So I want to invite you to watch our program on cbnfamily.com or download the CBN Family app. This way you can have direct access to the 700 Club and other specials from CBN, and you won't miss a thing. Now just click below to get more details and watch with us.
Tomorrow, the grades are in for remote learning.
Our oldest went from honor roll to F's to D's.
Students are being left behind.
Kids that are just falling through the cracks.
Will schools reopen their classrooms in the age of COVID?
And he's like, I hate this. I just want to go back to being in person.
And can students recover?
I gotta be the next time around.
Tomorrow on the 700 Club.
Stay connected with CBN News all day across our platforms.
Before COVID-19, a church in Nashville started addressing mental health issues in the community, including networking with healthcare resources. Well, that's paid off during the pandemic, helping not only the church, but the city as well. Heather Sells has the story.
As a college senior, Dakari Middlebrooks got a dreadful call. His best friend had been murdered. This led to 3 years of violent nightmares when finally a seminary professor suggested therapy, Middlebrooks rejected it flat out.
I said, I appreciate your suggestion, but Black people don't go to counseling. We just pray about it.
The government estimates that each year, 48 million struggle with anxiety disorders and millions with challenges like major depression, post-traumatic stress, and bipolar disorder. For the young, mental illness can turn deadly. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 34. Fortunately, Middlebrooks did make his way to a therapist.
I went to counseling and I enjoyed it. It was the greatest 2.5 years of my life.
He began attending a church with a pastor who openly talked about his struggle after his first wife died.
Went through an incredible loss in my life and found myself in a place of depression and didn't realize what it was. I knew I was in a dark place.
Bishop Walker also eventually sought out counseling. And as he healed, he realized his own church needed a wake-up call.
I think that there is in the African-American community this whole idea that, this phobia, this stigma, if you get counseling, you're crazy.
Research shows that people who are struggling with their mental health often turn first to their church. That's an enormous opportunity.
Now remarried, Bishop Walker and his wife, Dr. Stephanie Walker, a pediatrician, are bringing mental health to the forefront. They started Church Fit at Mount Zion, offering classes and programs on total physical and mental health. This includes a push from the pulpit in an effort to fight the stigma.
We now make it a part of our everyday conversation as opposed to something that's whispered or something that's talked about only in the corner. It's a part of the everyday conversation. So do you need help? How are you feeling today? And asking 3 questions beyond that. Because what is the common answer? Well, I'm fine. Well, really, so tell me more.
Psychologist Veronica Bell attends Mount Zion and says the new direction has been huge.
I think that's what he did, in essence, normalized it from the pulpit that, what you're experiencing is real. We can pray about it, but there are also resources available.
Dr. Walker has also developed a referral system so church members can easily find a counselor, psychiatrist, or support group.
As a church, we don't have to recreate the wheel. The resources are out there. We have the people, they have the resources, we serve as connectors.
And Mount Zion makes sure its people know how to help, ask the right questions, and not let go when someone is hurting.
It's not an option to leave you. It's not an option to hang up the phone. It's not an option to tell you we can't help you. Where do I need to send you next? And they're trained to figure out immediately in that moment what are the next steps in terms of getting this person help and getting them connected.
Flash forward to 2021, and Mount Zion has gone completely virtual. Its focus on mental health still big and perhaps more important than ever, as leaders know that COVID has brought extra stress and anxiety.
There are moments in this past year, if we were honest, we didn't think we were going to make it.
Mount Zion is using its website, Facebook, and other social media to communicate about spiritual, mental, and physical health. The church is also serving as a testing site for COVID, and it's encouraging its members to get the vaccine. It hopes to go back to in-person services sometime this year. For Middlebrooks, he's gone from shame to healing to transparency. He writes about his journey in the new book, The Depressed Millennial. And he says he's seen a change in his church as well.
I think the church is now aware that there has to be a space. And I think that's what we've been able to do here at Mount Zion, is carve out a space for dialogue. A lot of people were afraid to share that I'm broken.
Reporting in Nashville, Heather Sells, CBN News.
I think this is wonderful. The church I go to, the pastor's been open about his own struggle with depression, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to talk about what are the proper steps to take and how to get medical professionals who are also Christian to come alongside you and help you through. That we need to recognize that your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Why is it okay to talk about diet and exercise, but not talk about the things that you need to get right mentally? And instead of calling it post-traumatic stress disorder, we should just call it post-traumatic stress. The brain is an organ of the body, and when certain things happen to you, the brain takes it very seriously and can get damaged by it. So it's okay to get fixed. It's okay to go for medical help in order to receive what you need. Particularly in this time of COVID, where we're all isolated, we all long to have the normal human interactions we had just a year ago. It seems so long. All the isolation, and it's no wonder people are under stress. It's no wonder that we're having all these problems in our country. So get the help you need. Please reach out to your church and don't go through what I call the old way of doing church, where, you know, how are you doing? And, you know, I'm doing great, and I'm too blessed to be stressed, and all of this kind of thing. Be honest with how you're doing. Seek out that help. You can have plenty of ways to get Christian counseling. I encourage you, if you're going through mental stress, please get the help you need. Terry?
Well, still ahead, fed a lie. This woman was told the Bible and homosexuality go just fine together. So what happened when she heard the truth? Stay tuned to find out. Plus, he lost his job, his car, and his home. So how did this young man wind up running his own business and making six figures? Well, you have to see it to believe it after this. Do you have questions about God? Call us. It's toll-free, 1-800-700-7000, or check out this link.
He founded a global ministry, interviewed world leaders, was a leading presidential candidate, and he has walked with the living God. In Pat Robertson's latest book, discover the principles that guided this extraordinary life and how they can shape your future. When you become a CBN partner, we'll send you your copy of the highly acclaimed book, I Have Walked with the Living God. Call now.
Dennis Dixon has a way with electronics. He can fix just about anything. So when he lost his job, his car, and finally his home, Dennis had a choice to make. Well, what was it? And how did it lead to what Dennis calls ridiculous favor? Take a look.
Dennis Dixon has been fascinated with electronics ever since childhood. It all started when his mother gave him a walkie-talkie.
I broke it on my birthday, and I was like, oh man, I can't tell her that I broke it. So I was like, I'm gonna try to fix it. And I didn't know how to fix it, but I opened it up and I saw the inside, and it just caught me. And I've always been interested with electronics since then.
Soon he became the go-to person for friends and family with broken electronics. His father began to notice his son's talent.
It was just like a hobby, like any other hobby. And he saw me doing it, and he was like, you know, you could do something with this. So he was like, let's post an ad and see what happens. And the phone just kept ringing. People kept calling, and I'd fix one phone, then two phones, then they would tell their friends.
Dennis felt God prompting him to open a full-time business, but took a job in sales instead and fixed phones for extra money. His dad taught him the importance of tithing on his income.
Tithing is you trusting God with what he's given you and honoring him, you know, 10% of the 100% that he gives us every day. Setting aside money for God, for his kingdom and for his purpose, and learning how to trust God with your fears, with everything you have, including finances.
That trust was put to the test when the large electronics store he worked for went bankrupt. Dennis and his mother lost their jobs at the same time. Soon after, they lost their car and then their house.
And I think from that moment, I realized that faith wasn't just a feeling, but it was a reaction. Like, how am I going to choose to respond to this? Am I going to panic, or am I going to continue to trust God? And I chose to continue to trust God. I chose to continue tithing, believing that he was going to take care of us. And I would actually go above and give offerings, just believing for God to, you know, do a miracle. I wasn't gonna allow my circumstances to destroy my faith.
Dennis remembered God's prompting to start his business full-time, but didn't think he was ready.
My response was, if that's what you want for me, make it to where that's the only option I have.
While out looking for a job, Dennis noticed a retail space for rent. When he spoke with the owner, she offered him a lease that gave him free rent for several months for his fix-it-shop idea.
Man, I mean, it's all laid out for me, and I just chose to do what God had been telling me to do the whole time, like he opened the door.
Soon, his fix-it business was up and thriving.
Since I've been tithing, I've just seen like a ridiculous favor that just doesn't make sense. I would just see God provide in ways that I know that in my wisdom or in my knowledge, I couldn't have made happen by myself. It's just favor.
Dennis tithes to his church and also became a CBN partner.
I count it an honor to be able to support an organization that is spreading the love of God to people in places that I can't necessarily be at as a business owner. They're on the front lines of ministry, meeting the needs of people all across the world, and that's a privilege to me.
His business continues to grow and bless him beyond what he ever thought possible.
God restored everything we lost, and then some, 100-fold. Like, I never would have thought that I'd end up here running my own company, making 6 figures. Every day it's a blessing, and I'm just grateful and thankful for it.
Don't you just love Dennis? Love what his life stands for. Love the opportunity that he saw and then he took. And here's just a wonderful quote. I just did what God told me to do. That is how simple it is, when you just do what God tells you to do. Now, for Dennis, it was a risk. It's a risk to start a business. It's a risk to be an entrepreneur. It's a risk, but I like to spell faith, R-I-S-K. When God tells you to do something, he's expecting you to do it. He's expecting you to take that first step. I also love what Dennis said. Faith is a reaction. You know, when bad things happen to you, how do you react? And I think this is a message for America today. Bad things are happening to us, and how are we going to react? Are we going to say that the end is near and it's time to fold up, or are we going to say, no, our God lives and he reigns and he's still on the throne? Let's move forward in him. Let's do what he tells us to do. When we do these things, here's a promise that will happen. Why will it happen? Because God watches over his word to perform it. Here is his promise for you. And all these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you because you obey the voice of the Lord your God. Don't worry about what others are doing for you. When you obey the voice of the Lord your God, then wonderful things can happen. For Dennis, here he is, he's unemployed, he's lost his car, he's lost his home. It's bad, but God shows him a way out, shows him an opportunity, and he says, yes, I'll obey what God is telling me to do. And then the blessings overtook him. They just were more than he could possibly imagine. God restored to him everything that was lost, and then some. He restored 100-fold. He'll do that for you. Why? Because he loves you. He wants to bless you. When you walk in obedience to his word, that's when these blessings overtake you. Now, January 2021, I want you to resolve that you're going to do this, that you're going to live life God's way. When you do it his way, then the wonderful promises come for you. If you want to start doing that, do what Dennis did. He joined the 700 Club. How much is it? Well, it's just $20 a month. That breaks out to 65 cents a day. Some of you can give at a higher level. We have 700 Club Gold for you at $40 a month. We also have 1,000 Club. That's $1,000 a year. That breaks out to $84 a month. At whatever level, when you call, please join Pledge Express. That's electronic monthly giving. The bank doing all the work, and we can send as our gift to you. Power for Life, monthly teaching CDs. So if you'd like those, ask for Pledge Express when you call, or you can go to cbn.com. When you give monthly on the internet, you automatically sign up for Pledge Express. We also have a new text to give where you text CBN, those letters, CBN, to 71777, and a monthly giving page will come up, and you can join Pledge Express that way. Either way, do it now. 1-800-700-7000. Terry?
Pay rent or buy food? Well, that's the choice Katrina and Nathan have been forced to make since the pandemic hit. Work for Nathan has been sporadic, and he worried that his wife and his little girls weren't going to have enough to eat. But not anymore. Now the family has plenty of food. So what was it that made the difference? Take a look.
Katrina loves being a stay-at-home mom, but it hasn't been easy during the COVID pandemic. Nathan's a truck mechanic. He worries about work every day.
Biggest struggle is walking into work one day and being told that we're going to have to lay you off for a little bit. Be working one day and the next day you're jobless.
We've actually had to choose between like rent and food before, because sometimes when rent comes out, it gets very difficult that week and we're very short on money.
Then they went to a food distribution at Calvary Cumberland Presbyterian Church, which partners with Operation Blessing.
With Operation Blessing, us having to just drive down the road and get the food is absolutely a blessing to us. It's been amazing.
Food distribution, it helps out quite a bit. I don't have to worry about the wife and the kids not eating.
Operation Blessing partners help this ministry in Mayfield, Kentucky feed hundreds of families every week.
The food distribution, they're really awesome. They're so sweet, and they welcome you as soon as you pull in your car. They will open your trunk for you, put the food in there for you.
Everybody gets fed and bills still get paid.
It's a godsend. It takes a lot of load off of people who are absolutely struggling in their lives, and you don't know how hard it is and how thankful, like I am, that you do this for us, and I just want to thank you so much.
You know, it's not surprising when you see stories that we bring you from people who are living in third world countries where poverty is an everyday issue, to see that they have a deep need and to recognize that we can make a difference. But with this pandemic, the need has just become so great right here in the United States of America. And so what an opportunity we have to all come together and to be there for each other. You know, you never know when something like this is going to impact you, when it's your job that's going to be lost, when it's your home that's on the edge of being taken away from you, when you don't know whether there's food enough in the cupboard for your kids. You know, you and I can touch the lives of people in need, and when we do that, when it's our turn, somebody will be there for us. So let's do that together. When you join the 700 Club, 65 cents a day, $20 a month, you're joining with thousands of people who've made this possible here at home and around the world. And so today we come to you to say, in the midst of this pandemic, let's do this. Go to your phone and call. Our number's toll free. It's so simple, 1-800-700-7000. Just call, say, I want to join the 700 Club. But there are many options you have to do that. For example, there's a general membership at the top of the list, but maybe you're already a 700 Club member. Why don't you go to the 700 Club Gold level at $40 a month, or become a 1,000 Club member or a 2,500 Club member? Founders join us at $417 a month. That's $5,000 a year. You can make a huge difference when you call right now. You know what? We want to say thank you to you when you call to join the club or increase your membership by sending you Pat's new book, I Have Walked with the Living God. This is a remarkable account of all of the ways that God has faithfully met Pat at every turn in the road and given him wisdom, direction, guidance, favor. We want you to read this. Your own faith, I know, will be encouraged by it. And when you become a CBN partner, you'll also receive instant access access to the audio version of I Have Walked with the Living God. That's read by actor Kevin Sorbo. You can listen at home or on the go on your computer, your phone, your smart TV, or your favorite device by using the CBN Family app. Activate your streaming link when you join as a CBN partner today, and all of this is yours. We say thank you in advance. Gordon?
Well, just imagine your daughter going blind in one eye, and she needs not one but 2 operations to restore her sight, and you have no money to pay for even one of the operations. Well, that's what a single mother in Honduras was facing. So what did she do? Well, you're about to find out.
One thing that 8-year-old Kimberly enjoyed was drawing and coloring. Then she began to notice that her right eye was getting blurry and irritated.
I thought there might be something in my eye that was making it hard to see.
Kimberly's mom, Carla, noticed that her daughter's right eye was also bloodshot.
It seemed like it might be conjunctivitis. I looked, but could not see any dirt in her eye.
The next day, she took Kimberly to the doctor.
The doctor told me she had a cataract that needed to be removed and that it was a very expensive surgery.
Carla's husband abandoned the family 7 years ago. As a single mom, Carla wondered how she could raise enough money to pay for an operation.
My daughter said, "Mom, I want to have the surgery because I want to see." That made me cry because she is my daughter. I asked God with all my heart to heal her.
A few weeks after the first diagnosis, Kimberly woke up and discovered that she was now totally blind in her right eye. Her mom rushed her back to the eye clinic.
The doctor said now she had a cataract and a detached retina. He said she now needed 2 separate operations to restore her sight.
When Carla said she could not afford either surgery, the staff member referred her to Operation Blessing in Honduras.
When I heard that, I had faith that my daughter would see again. I know that God heard us and was opening a door for us.
Operation Blessing arranged for Kimberly to receive both eye surgeries for free. The first repaired the detached retina, and the second removed the cataract and replaced it with a new lens. A short time after the operations, we were there as the doctor removed the bandage, and Kimberly told us that she could see again.
Now I can see again. I can play, run, I can do many things.
Operation Blessing is a place where they open doors to help people who really need it. I appreciate your help. You have no idea how much I thank you.
And that thank you goes to you if you're a member of the 700 Club. Imagine being part of that. Imagine being part of that blessing. We've got lots of operations in Operation Blessing, and we want to help people in need, people who can't afford surgeries. We want to be there for them, to give sight to the blind. What a perfect expression of what Jesus wants to do in the world today. You can be a part of it. How? Join the 700 Club. A portion of every gift to the 700 Club goes into the wonderful work of Operation Blessing, where you're feeding people right here in America. You're providing disaster relief whenever there's a hurricane, tornado. We want to be there for people in need. And you're also providing wonderful surgeries for people around the world. You can be a part of all of it by joining the 700 Club. How much is it? Well, it's just $20 a month. That's 65 cents a day. You can join 700 Club Gold. That's $40 a month. 1,000 Club is $1,000 a year. That's $84 a month. We also have 2,500 Club, which is $2,500, and then Founder, $5,000 or more a year at whatever level. Call us and say, yes, I want to be a part of it. 1-800-700-7000. When you join the 700 Club, we have a great gift for you. It's my father's new book called I Have Walked with a Living God. Here's a sample of what you'll find inside.
Hi, this is Pat Robertson with an excerpt from my new book, I Have Walked with a Living God, read by actor Kevin Sorbo. I hope it will be a blessing to you as you walk with God.
If anyone tells you that crucifixion is fun, don't believe him. But for the new man to be born, the old man must die. If they attempt to live side by side, there will be constant warfare. In other words, there's no way that God Almighty will ultimately use somebody whose life is filled with pride and whose goal is material gain. For God to begin his work in me, something had to happen.
Get your copy today when you become a CBN partner. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com.
Hello, this is Pat Robertson. I've written a book called I Have Walked with the Living God. In its pages, I've shared many of the things God has spoken to me. At one time, the Lord told me, and I quote, "Do not fear the future, for I am the future." I can tell you that when you step out into the future, you step out into the hands of a loving God whom you can trust not only for tomorrow, but forever.
In Pat's dynamic latest book, you'll learn how to receive favor, wisdom, and discernment, how to overcome obstacles, and live a life that is exhilarating and full of promise.
I think this book can help you live that kind of a life.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to receive your copy today.
Still ahead.
The Bible and homosexuality go just fine together.
The lie that led to her lesbian lifestyle.
And I just sensed that there was something off about that.
And the voice of truth that set her straight.
That opened a door for me to enjoy being a woman.
Welcome back to Washington for this CBN News break. The Trump administration has finalized a rule that allows faith-based adoption agencies to receive federal funding regardless of their views on same-sex marriage. The new rule reverses a regulation from the Obama administration. The religious liberty group Alliance Defending Freedom represented 2 faith-based adoption agencies in federal lawsuits over the issue. Senior counsel Zach Pruitt said the Department of Health and Human Services' final rule to end this discrimination offers hope to children and more options for birth mothers. LGBTQ advocates want the incoming administration to rescind the new rule. Well, turning now to the Holy Land, a church located along the banks of the Jordan River reopened Sunday for the first time in decades. It came only after a massive project to remove thousands of landmines left over from the Six-Day War. A small group of Catholic priests held Mass and celebrated the Feast of the Baptism of the Lord at St. John the Baptist Chapel. The bullet-riddled church hadn't held a service in 54 years due to the landmine danger. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com. Gordon and Terry will be back with more of the 700 Club right after this.
Hi, folks. This is Pat Robertson, and I want to thank you for watching the 700 Club. Now, make sure to click the subscribe button below so you'll never miss an episode. The team at CBN always reads and responds to your comments and prayer requests, so keep them coming.
Tomorrow, the grades are in for remote learning.
Our oldest went from honor roll to F's to D's.
Students are being left behind.
Kids that are just falling through the cracks.
Will schools reopen their classrooms in the age of COVID?
And he's like, I hate this. I just want to go back to being in person.
And can students recover?
I gotta be the next time around.
Tomorrow on the 700 Club.
Ann Paulk once dreamed of finding a female, falling in love with her, and getting married. But Ann's dream was based on a lie. So how did she discover the truth? And how did the truth lead her to a life beyond her wildest dreams? We'll take a look.
I felt uncomfortable in my own body. I felt unsafe. I felt responsible for what an older person did to me.
When she was just 3 years old, Ann Paulk was exposed to pornography and molested. In that moment, her sense of safety and self-identity was destroyed.
I literally overnight dressed more like a tomboy. I was no longer interested in dolls. It was everything to do with throwing off the feminine because it was unsafe. When I was about 6 years old, a little girl made a pass at me, and then she kissed me. What I realized right then is I felt like I had power, as opposed to being powerless in the other circumstance. And that ignited lesbian desire later on in life. That was really the starting point of that turning of my feelings.
Raised in a Christian home, Anne suppressed her same-sex feelings through high school. But that changed when she went to college.
I found myself quickly getting involved in alcohol and drugs on campus. They were everywhere. And that also gave me room to explore my sexual desires. I started going to a college campus advisor, a peer-related person who said, it's no problem, the Bible and homosexuality go just fine together. And I just sensed that there was something off about that, even though I didn't really know God. I knew of him, but I didn't know him personally.
Desperate for love and community, Anne attended gay support groups on campus. But one night during a meeting, she heard from the Holy Spirit.
It felt like a ray of light from heaven hit me right in the middle of this gay meeting, that the love that you're seeking, you're not going to find here. And I thought, oh no, because I'd banked all my hopes on that. That I would find a female partner and we'd get married or have a relationship like that and live the rest of our lives together. I knew that voice was telling me the truth. And so I was very destroyed. I felt so sad. I ran off and asked God who he really was. I'd said, if you are the Christian God, which I hope you're not, here are the things I need to see happen. Boom, 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 boom. And he answered all of them. I didn't tell anyone else that. I didn't give anybody else a chance to fulfill them. And God came through. In 2 weeks, I began to be surrounded by Christians who actually knew him. And those led to conversations where he became really apparent.
She began attending Bible studies on campus. One night, she says she had an amazing encounter with the Jesus she'd always knew about, but never known.
The last night we were praying, everybody with their heads bowed and praying, and I was pretending, you know, okay, this is what you do. You put your hands together, you bow your head. And a person was in that room, a person who is full of grace and kindness and full of authority. And he just revealed himself to me that he was in the room weaving in and out amongst the prayers of the saints. But around me, there was such a gap. There was a hole. It was void. And I knew that night, I told the pastor afterwards, I said, I have to have the person who was in that room in my life. I would give anything to have that person in my life. And that night, I accepted Jesus to be my Lord and Savior, and literally felt like God had filled me, energized me, filled me up with joy in a way that was hard to describe.
At first, Anne's new faith in Jesus gave her a freedom from same-sex attraction. But 4 years after becoming a Christian, she fell back into a lesbian relationship. Broken and desperate for change, she reached out to a ministry in California that ministers to the sexually broken.
It gave me an example of people who are actually walking out faithfulness to Jesus with same-sex attraction. It gave some examples of really far down the line of some people who were now married to people of the opposite sex who had kids and were thriving in that relationship. They were no longer daily and moment by moment dealing with same-sex attraction the way I was. And so it kind of gave me a long view of what could be and what was happening with other people. And that was really helpful and very encouraging to me.
Anne found the keys that set her free from same-sex attraction. Soon she felt safe as a woman again, as the love of Jesus filled her need for intimacy.
What was surprising to me is within 5 years of working on issues in my life, of forgiving people, particularly the fellow who molested me when I was younger, that opened a door for me to enjoy being a woman, and enjoying being a woman and really thriving in it with my relationships with other women kind of began to fill up my cup. And then I noticed that men are different. That eventually, this pathway led to me getting married. I never would have guessed that. And then having 3 children, I was given a bounty of beauty in place of my struggles by the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And he walked me through that step so that I could become more the woman he always intended me to be.
Today, Anne champions healing from same-sex attraction as the director of the Restored Hope Network.
I am so grateful that the Lord raised me up to be a leader in this movement of helping people leave homosexuality, and that is joy. It is absolute joy for me.
Boy, we live in a day of so much confusion about so many issues, don't we? But there's one thing that I think you could say is common through it all, and that's that we are all looking to be loved, to be able to love, to fill that empty thing inside of us that looks for that from someone else. You know, God has a plan, and his plan is a good plan. And he started out with a man and a woman in a garden, and he has lots to say in the Word about what his plan for relationships is. It's not my opinion that matters or anyone else's opinion that matters, but if you're interested in what God has to say about it, then you need to first of all know him. And then you need to get in the Word. And then you need to understand what Anne said she encountered, which was this person who was filled with love and acceptance and grace, who's not out to harm you or to put you in a situation where you feel unloved, unfulfilled. He is our fulfillment. You know, if there's a common thread that runs through every story that you hear on this program that has anything to do with the relationship with God, it's that we come to a place of understanding that there's his way and there's our way. And our way is what we surrender when we want to know him, when we want him to be a part of our lives, when we want to open ourselves up to understanding who he created us to be and how he defines us. It shouldn't be a surprise to us that it's often different than the way we define ourselves, because the world's ways are very different than God's ways. Scripture says that. It's that surrender, it's that putting down the fear of even opening the door to that, to say, God, I want to know who you are first, because when I know who you are, it's going to help me understand who I am. I want that for you today, so that you will not be wandering around trying to find love, evasive as it can be, so that you're not wandering around feeling less than or wondering about who you are. God created you with intent and purpose in mind. The Bible says he knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb, that he created you with purpose, with a plan, with intention. Don't miss out on finding out what that is for yourself. Come to him with your whole heart. Come to him with your brokenness, with your questions. Come to him with your frustration about things and just lay it out before him. God, I want to know you. Jesus, you said you came to set the captive free. Set me free. I want to know who you are. I want to know what happened 2,000 years ago to you, what that means to me today. I want my sins and my shortcomings to be forgiven. I want to be filled with your grace and your mercy and your love. I want to know what I'm here for. Take my life and shape it into what you created me to be, and then fill me with your Holy Spirit so I can live for you. In Jesus' name I pray. Listen, if you've prayed that prayer, then God has heard your heart cry. If you need someone to pray with you, you can call our toll-free number at any time. It's always available, 1-800-700-7000. You know, prayer changes things. You are not alone. You're never alone, no matter what you're facing today. Maybe your situation isn't the same as Anne's. We all have different things that come into our lives that try to divert us, that try to take our attention off of what really matters, which is where are we going in eternity, which is who is it who created us and who can set us free, not just from ourselves, but from every temptation in the world today. Don't miss out on that for yourself. Call now and let someone pray with you. If you prayed that prayer with me, we've got a great packet called A New Day. What do you do now that you've invited Christ into your life? How do you walk this out? This is yours for the asking. Just call and say, I'd like the New Day packet. We'll get it out to you right away. No money involved. We leave you with these words from Romans 12:21. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. God bless you.
Hello, this is Pat Robertson. As I look back over my 90 years, I see a life of ongoing excitement filled with loving God and seeing His power at work. I've written a book called I Have Walked with the Living God, telling about the wonderful things that have happened to me. It's my hope that it will lead you to a deeper understanding of God and inspire you to set a course to serve Him.
In Pat's dynamic latest book, you'll learn how to receive favor, wisdom, and discernment, how to overcome obstacles, and live a life that is exhilarating and full of promise.
I believe this book will help you step into your future, ready to trust God and receive His blessings in your life. Nothing can compare to a life lived for God's glory and purpose.
Call now or go to cbn.com to receive your copy today.